Okay!
Born free as the wind blows.
Welcome back to the Nameless Fighting Game Show, Episode 8, Part B or something. I don't even fucking know what I'm going to call this one, but basically we have 2 episodes this week.
The explicit content episode.
Yeah.
Starting out with the F word.
Something like that, right? Not suitable for work when people are swearing. So there are 3 subjects that I want to discuss with you today, John. One of them, and they've come up based on like content that we and I have pushed out there and some of the interviews I've done. One of them is stress, because every single player that I've interviewed has brought up this subject of how stressful Street Fighter V is.
I have more gray hairs that have appeared since February of last year than I've ever noticed before, and I'm pretty sure Street Fighter V is the culprit. Okay,
so we'll talk about that. The next one I want to talk about is often in the comment section, and I see it all the time everywhere, and I don't want to ignore it. A lot of people say, listen, if you don't like Street Fighter V, when there's critiques, right, of Street Fighter V, listen, if you don't like Street Fighter V, what the hell are you doing? Leave it. Go play something better. Go play Guilty Gear. That's better. Go play Killer Instinct. That's better. Go play whatever, right? So I kind of want to talk about why it's so hard to walk away from Street Fighter V, or why we don't want to walk away from Street Fighter V, even though we have critiques of Street Fighter V. So I want to have that conversation. And then the final conversation is probably just a fun, quick one, and that is, would the world end if Wolfkrone won ELeague?
Hard yes.
So I want to, like, the question really is it a good thing or a bad thing if Wolfkrone won ELeague? And we'll talk about that. So first up is stress, right? So I interview these players. I've interviewed everybody, right? And they all say this game is stressful. They say it's much more stressful than Street Fighter 4. They say pools are incredibly stressful. They used to, Strider said it, and he's very much been sort of saying, listen, accept the game, get used to the game, learn how to play it, be positive, blah, blah, blah. But pools are much more stressful to get out of than they were in Street Fighter 4. Then I have comments from people saying things like, oh, boo-hoo, it's stressful. Of course it's stressful. It's competition, right? Mm-hmm. So I kind of wanted to explore this a little bit. I would love to hear from people in the comments about like this idea of stress in regards to this game. Is it more stressful than other fighting games? Is it more stressful than other games in general in esports? And is that an issue? So I guess my first question to you is, do you find this game more stressful, and why is it more stressful?
That's another hard yes, absolutely. And I think the easiest, quickest answer is because of the damage output and the ease into that damage output. And the easy example is if you're playing one of the quote-unquote robbery characters, say you're playing against Balrog, and you're doing well, and you're pushing him all the way to the corner, but you know that now that he has V-Trigger, because you've been hitting him all round long, you know that he is just one tap away from putting you in a situation that could potentially end the round. Despite all of the decisions that you've made that have been correct thus far, you know that if you mess up a meaty throw or a meaty attack on his wake up, or you wait a little bit too long to do a frame trap, or you go for a command grab and he neutral jumps, the whole round could be over for you. And it's not hard to do the sequences that can end rounds. It's very simple, and so that makes the scrubs, if you will, much more threatening. And when you are a higher level player like Strider, I mean, even myself back when I was competing more, there's like this pressure to never lose in pools. If that person loses in pools, you're like, oh no, you're gonna get so much crap from your friends first off. But you're also going to get like kind of shunned by the community a little bit. Your ranking is going to drop a little bit in the community's eyes. And if you're sponsored, well then, like, how long is my sponsor going to hang on to me if I'm losing in pools? And there's so much pressure. And I think that's kind of like the second realm of it, is that it's very easy to lose, and it's more scary to lose than it ever has been, because there's a ton of money going into Street Fighter V. Prize pools are bigger than they ever have been. We're making it onto cable television and stuff like that. Nobody wants to lose this game, and it feels like it's so easy to do so, and it happens so quick. So that's kind of my nutshell answer as to why it's stressful to play Street Fighter V.
So it's a little bit of a perfect storm in regards to there's the game, and then this year in particular there's been, Echo Fox came in. A lot of these sponsorships seem a lot more legit, a lot more money is on the line. Then there's a lot more esports, ELeague, ESL, money. So it feels like the perfect storm of all of these things. And it also feels like Street Fighter 4, everyone, like, Strider said to me, pools were easy, right?
And they were. They absolutely were. For a player that normally would escape pools with, you're expected to get out of pools and winners. It was, you didn't even have to think about it. You just go do it. It's like, it's your job. And then, all right, done with pools. Played 4 matches. Good to go. Not going to practice for whoever it is I have out of pools.
So my question were pro players spoiled by Street Fighter 4? Did Street Fighter 4 have too many option selects, too many escape options, or I don't think there's a right answer to this question, to be perfectly honest. But when I see someone like Xian on ELeague come out of a game and not be able to speak, and I love Xian, and a lot of people look up to Xian. Bonchan and Fudo, I think, named him as their favorite player. So many people respect Xian, and Xian's walking out of a game and he can hardly speak, right? It's kind of weird. It says something. It says something about the stress now compared to the stress back in Street Fighter 4, and I wonder whether we were all just spoiled by Street Fighter 4 in the sense that the more you knew, the more you could stay in control.
Absolutely. And even if you slipped up, if you were playing against a player of lower skill, there was a lot more execution in 4. So you might slip up and you might eat a little damage, but it wasn't as much of a chance of you eating half of your life into a mix-up. You might go into a vortex, but even then you got multiple chances to get out. Street Fighter V, at any moment, you can have a full life bar, and it feels closer to when you are you're risking chip in any other game, when you have 0 life and you can't even be touched by a stray fireball or something like that. It feels closer to that at any moment in Street Fighter V. And I think obviously that's a very stressful time in a fighting game, and you're living in it in 5. Okay,
so I don't know the answer to this debate, right? I don't know the answer to it. I don't know if it's ever something that the developers would ever consider, it's too stressful, let's make it less stressful. I just don't think that's the case. I think it's competitive, but it does feel like they've definitely closed the gap in a way that you will get upsets. Infiltration's a good example recently, not making it out of pools, I think, or I didn't even...
Right, he drowned in pools.
Drowned in pools, right? Which is crazy. He would never do that in Street Fighter 4. Even if they'd done the balance changes and he didn't have a character, he still wouldn't in Street Fighter 4 drown in pools. I just can't remember.
Yeah, maybe losers, and even if he went to losers, that would be a big deal.
Right. So I don't know the answer to this. So I'd love the comment section to give their perspective on it and tell us whether they think it's tell us whether they think it's fair. There's this much stress, I guess, in an esport, and if it's, I'd like to know, because I don't have knowledge of all esports games, right? I'd like to know if there are comparable games out there that are played at this level, or is this the most stressful game in esports right now? I'd love to know that. I just think it's kind of interesting.
And is it a bad thing, or if it's just no, that's just the way Street Fighter V is, and do your job, just go forward and play it like that.
Do you have sympathy for the players, or are you just no, it is what it is, and you got to deal with it? So I don't know the answer. All I know is that it's seems to be a hot topic, and I just wanted to kind of have the conversation. All right, so let's move on to our second topic, which is I love this one because because I get some of the comments that I read when people. The second topic is basically this. So Street Fighter 5 is not perfect. We know this, right? Whether it be the UX, which is very objective in terms of like, hey, the loading times kind of suck, and netcode kind of sucks, and this and that and the other. And then there's the gameplay, which is a little bit more subjective, right? Mm-hmm. Which is like, I don't kind of like it. This not really. This isn't what I like. And when people have their critiques, oftentimes there are responses saying, "Look, enough. Street Fighter 5 is not going to change. It is what it is. You should leave. There are plenty of great games out there, right?" Which is a fair comment, I think. I mean, the fact that there are the other games out there is a fair comment, right? So there's Guilty Gear, there's King of Fighters, there's going to be like Tekken and Injustice and all these things, right? And everyone's saying
Killer Instinct, Marvel, yeah, there's plenty. Right. There are plenty of options.
Plenty of options, right? But Street Fighter is still on top. And I guess I wanted to talk a little bit why I can certainly talk about why I won't walk away from Street Fighter. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to get your, why don't you go first? Why don't you tell me your perspective on it?
Yeah, I think that, okay, so there's two sides to this coin for me. So first, kind of the negative. Street Fighter 5, I think, is still around at the capacity that it's around because, one, the name Street Fighter, it's been around for almost 30 years. It, in many ways, is fighting games. It's kind of like the most notable, memorable fighting game that everyone's kind of connected to that's in this community in one way or another. And so I think on the name alone, people are gonna play Street Fighter. And then you also have this new world that we're in of esports, where you have people promoting it from outside with their money, with their television, and so it's made out to be this really big thing. Regardless of how it plays, regardless of the experience, Street Fighter is being marketed and it's being promoted. So it could be absolute trash, and it would still be successful, at least for the time being. You look at other games like Killer Instinct, where it's much more, I think, player-friendly, and they're still having a really hard time getting, they're nowhere near the numbers of Street Fighter, even though you could argue that maybe that game deserves it more with how much attention and detail and stuff that goes into it. But I think that Street Fighter, on its name and on how much it's being promoted, is surviving and would continue to survive if it were even worse than it is right now. Having said that, though, I also think that Street Fighter is not as bad as everyone makes it out to be. I think that it is the spotlight top game right now, and that it's fun to hate on that, and that people are going to want to break Street Fighter down. The first thing that they want to do is find something wrong with it, and they do. And a lot of the complaints are very valid to differing degrees, but there's obviously things wrong with the game. But I think if you go into a comment section of like Event Hubs or a forum or whatever, and you look at how people are talking about it, they're gonna paint a much more negative picture than what reality actually is. Mm. And so I think that don't get your information from that, and don't get your information from right after you lost a match or got eliminated from a local tournament or whatever, because those are going to be the times where you're most likely to speak out on the game and probably against the game because of your emotions and whatnot. And fighting games are so unforgiving, and especially Street Fighter 5 being so unforgiving. That's where a lot of the negativity is coming from. And so I think that it gets a worse rap than it probably should, than it deserves. Also, finally, we're in a whole new era of fighting games, with the internet being what it is now compared to what it used to be, with the fact that we can patch games and change things, with the fact that DLC comes out on the regular now. There's a whole new rubric that we're comparing, or we're using to judge Street Fighter 5, as opposed to any of the Street Fighters past. And I think any Street Fighter from history that came out today, you couldn't, if you put it up to the rubric that people are judging Street Fighter 5 by, you would have, they'd laugh at the game and say infinites, or they'd say, like T-Hawk command grab, infinite stuff from Street Fighter 2, or the the ridiculousness of the balance in virtually any game, and they would just laugh at it. But now Street Fighter V, we're like, you need to have all balanced characters, and you need to have, you know, perfection, and every little bell and whistle has to be perfect. And they very much aren't, but they are a lot better at launch than most other fighting games over history. And there should be an updated rubric, but I think that taking that all into account, it's kind of where we would expect it to be as far as, like, you know, the launch of balance and things like that. The whole, you know, the way that the internet works and the net code and the user experience, I don't find there's a lot of slack there for Capcom. I think that things need to be better given their status as, like, you know, who they are, they're Capcom, their legacy with this whole game and this franchise. But as far as, like, you know, balance and things like that, I think that I think we go a little bit hard.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about it from a very casual perspective, and that is, I mean, I've said this before, I actually do play the game every day. I thoroughly enjoy Akuma. I think he's one of the most fun characters to play in the game. I've heard a number of people say that, actually. So I'm lucky in that respect that's the character that I love to play. But in regards to this idea that you can't critique a game, you can critique a game and want it to get better and still play it. And it doesn't have to be, oh, you don't like it? Go, you need to leave it. Like, you need to go. Because, no, I've been with it for 30 years. You know, like, it's like, well, we'll do the relationship analogy, right? It's like you've been in a 30-year relationship. That's a family relationship. That's like, it's like my mum's going through a tough time. Okay, let's cut her off. Let's just walk away. Let's just cut her off.
Yeah.
You know, it's a franchise that I love and adore and grew up with, and over my lifetime, I have an emotional connection to the characters. I have an emotional connection to the game, and so I am very much going to be, you know, vocal and wanting the game to be the best it can possibly be. I do actually play it on a casual level. I really enjoy it, actually. You know, so I still play it. Should I play other games? Yeah, probably. I mean, there's a whole bunch coming out this year, and there's a whole bunch that I want to try, and I will. I will certainly be picking up Injustice 2. I definitely want to get a sense of some of these games that are probably going to be doing single-player modes better. Like Injustice 2 single-player modes look insanely good.
And they always have. Like, NRS has always been on top of that.
I love that stuff. I mean, I'll buy it. I'll probably sell the game, you know, like down the road I'll sell the game because it's unlikely that I'll continue to put effort into playing online PvP just because my preference is Street Fighter in terms of time. But, you know, Tekken I'm interested in now because of the Akuma, actually. But there are other games that, and Guilty Gear, you know, I downloaded the demo and I want to see, like, what does a top quality experience look like in terms of training mode and all of these amazing things that apparently are in all these other games that are not in Street Fighter, and I think that's a good gauge to have. But should I walk away from Street Fighter? Am I an idiot for playing Street Fighter? The answer is I enjoy it and I want to continue playing it. But I definitely have, you know, things that I want to see improved, you know?
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, on the FGC side of things, I think this is a really interesting conversation because it's a really tough one because you can spread yourself thinly. I like to think about politics a little bit. Like, this is my political analogy, right? So it's kind of like, who are you going to vote for, right? So it's like, the way the system is set up, it's like you vote for Democrats or you vote for Republicans or you vote for somebody else, and that's a wasted vote. And I hate to say this, I really hate to say this, but, you know, there's this, at the moment, the FGC is trying to break through into esports. The FGC is trying to really go up in terms of the tiers in esports, right? The money, the size of it, creating jobs within the FGC, you know, for people, for there to be money in the FGC, and that's kind of what being attempted right now with Street Fighter, and I think you kind of need a lead game to do that. And I think if you were ever, in that context, if you were ever going to move to another game, it's almost like everyone would have to say, okay, this is the game we're all going to, you know? Otherwise...
Mass exodus.
Yeah, otherwise, like, you get spread so thinly, it feels like the FGC is not gonna rise in that regard, in the esports regard. And I think that, you know, like, I just think that's a thing. I think that's a matter of fact. I don't think it's like, you know, I don't feel like it's an opinion. I feel like it's a real thing. I think Street Fighter has always had that, you know, has been that game. And I think if there's any other game that could potentially do that, it might be Marvel.
100%, yeah. I'm almost worried for the Street Fighter scene once Marvel drops. I don't think it'll actually cannibalize. I don't think it did in the past, but I think Marvel will be much more popular, at least in America, than Street Fighter once it comes out. But it does really feel like, you know, like when someone doesn't like something, you just don't talk about it. You don't play it. You don't acknowledge it. You just say, "Oh, that's not a thing I enjoy. Let's move on."
Yeah.
But it seems like Street Fighter V has become this game that people love to hate in some respects. And they continue to, you know, jump into articles, jump into discussions, jump into forums, just to tell you how much they hate the game, and just to say, you know, lag and this and that. And while, yeah, there are problems with it, the amount of fervor and how excited people seem to be to come out and talk about a game they don't like, it's like, why? You don't dislike it as much as you're letting on, because if you truly didn't like it, you wouldn't be talking about it. You wouldn't be joining discussions about it and stuff. You would just be ignoring it, and that's not at all what people are doing. They're watching it, they're talking about it, and everything. So I mean, to me, it's sort of like I totally don't like my ex anymore. No, my ex is whatever. I don't care. I don't go on their Facebook. You know, it's like, yes, you do. You secretly love Street Fighter V. You call them drunkenly at night and stuff. It's
Yeah, totally. Oh, God. Yeah, we may be taking these analogies too far now. People are starting to learn too much about us. Okay, so again, I would love to hear from people what their thoughts are on the subject. I'm sure that will be a fiery one. It is a fiery one.
Speaking of taking things too far, how about that Wolfkrone, huh?
Right, so lovely segue. Well done. That was excellent. That was top-notch.
Look out, Sajam, here I come.
Yeah, exactly, right? Sajam's superpower, segues. So Wolfkrone. I just thought this would be kind of interesting, because I'm sure somebody said it. I think somebody said, imagine if Wolfkrone won ELeague. The world would turn upside down, or whatever, right? And I just thought it was an interesting question. I don't think there's a huge debate. I don't feel like there's a huge debate about it. But why don't you give me your thoughts? Do you think it would be a good thing for Wolfkrone to win ELeague, or do you think it would be a bad thing for Wolfkrone to win ELeague?
I come from the perspective that I want some like honor and morality in my FGC, especially in front of the cameras. And Wolfkrone he's a great player and he's performed well, and it's been exciting to watch him. But the way he conducts himself, he's not like, I don't want Wolfkrone to be the thing that people that aren't in FGC but that watch TBS or maybe get like, you know, if Wolfkrone wins everything, then he's going to be kind of our poster child for the outside world in a lot of big ways. And I don't want him to be that, because he's shown that he just doesn't have a lot of social grace when it comes to these things. And you know, like, I don't want to go as far and say, no, it needs to be someone like K-Brad who has all the charisma in the world and knows how to talk in front of a camera and knows how to conduct themselves perfectly and get people behind them and riled up. But I don't want someone that just goes on TBS and uses the F word. I mean, that's funny and there's some drama to it, but I don't want Wolfkrone to be the poster child for the FGC to the outside world. And I think the winner of ELeague, who gets like a life-changing amount of money and who's going to be, you know, I saw ELeague on at the bar, and I was in a Mexican restaurant, and I was looking over in the bar TVs over there, and I saw ELeague, and I was like, dude, there's Dude, there's Chrome and stuff. And anyone that sees that, I don't want Wolfkrone to be the guy. So in that respect, no. Would it be fun? Would it be dramatic? Would it be kind of cool? Like, oh, Wolfkrone won. Yeah, but as far as my perspective, I don't want that to happen.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, I think that's very strong and very valid, and very responsible of you. I don't like it when Street Fighter gets all WWE. I'm just showing my age there. WWE, but like he's a heel, as you guys like to call it, right?
Yeah.
And to me, there would be an element of setting up another season, right, of ELeague. Like, to me, like if he won it, it would be like, all right, season 2, now it's on. Like we have to bring him down.
Well, if that's how the outside world saw him, yes. But if it was K-Brad and Wolfkrone in the finals or something like that, and then Wolfkrone won, then yeah, you'd have your heel that needs to be dethroned. But like if it's Wolfkrone and some Japanese player that isn't really outspoken, I don't know if that narrative would come about.
I think they'd create it.
Yeah.
I think they'd create it. I think they'd create it because I think they've been doing a good job of sort of fostering those types of things. I don't think for a second they wouldn't continue to foster the idea that Wolfkrone is the bad guy. So I think they'd create it, and I think it would be kind of interesting if he did win it. I wouldn't be too gutted if he didn't win it. Truth be told, I think Punk's probably gonna take it. Either Punk
He's the one to beat right now, absolutely.
Punk or NuckleDu. They got it's kind of interesting actually because Punk and NuckleDu have a bit of a friendship going on right now, which is very visible. And it's going to be interesting the next time these guys actually meet under those circumstances. Highly competitive, lots of money on the line, lots of teabagging. like it's going to be interesting to see what happens because it's almost like they have too much respect for each other at the moment. And it's going to be interesting to see, like, when they play each other, if that all goes out the window and it's all about disrespecting each other.
Right.
I don't know. But the Wolfkrone, again, guys in the comments, let us know. What do you think? Do you think the bad guy, the current bad guy, Wolfkrone, winning ELeague would be a good or a bad thing? I don't know. I'm 50-50 on it at the moment, to be perfectly honest. I think ELeague's been pretty interesting. Would I like to see a second season? Probably. And, if the second season was based around, like, bringing down the bad guy, it could be kind of interesting. I don't know. But I hear what you're saying in regards to, like, the face of the FGC. And that's why I was very gutted when I saw Xian and Tokido. I threw like a temper tantrum, like an absolute child. I just was so upset.
Did you throw stuff and like cry a little bit and stuff?
I went to bed. I went to bed.
You rage quit the day.
I think I tweeted something like "fuck this shit" and then I went to bed.
Sounds about right. I think everybody does that when they play Street Fighter V online late at night.
Well,
that's how all of our days end.
I don't know. I was just feeling it that day. I was feeling like I wanted Xian and Tokido to go through, and they didn't. And that was the group of death. And unfortunately, they did not survive the group of death.
I think we still have some good competitors. Like, I think if Du wins, that's fine. I think if Punk wins, although I wouldn't have said this maybe a few months ago, but now he's at a place where it's like, Punk he would be a great poster boy for the FGC to the outside world. So, and I don't have the list in front of me of everyone that's still in, but I do want someone with personality. I think Shen is a good non-American with personality, but a lot of the players from other parts of the world, they just win, and it's just so matter-of-fact, and they thank you, and then they walk off. And it's like, I want someone with a little more, of an aura about them to take it.
Yeah. No, I hear you completely. Okay, well, we'll see what happens in that one. They got Group D this Friday, I believe. So kind of excited to see that, and then we'll have our final 8 for that, and then that crazy weekend on May 26th, which is ELeague, ComboBreaker, and RedBull Kumite.
Good luck.
Like,
oh, we're gonna be busy that weekend on Event Hubs. It'll be good.
I mean, are we gonna do bets on that? Because that's just gonna be like insanity. We're gonna have to do some sort of special bet.
The beard bet?
No, not the. Yeah, no. I mean, well, whatever. I don't care. I've shaved my beard off before. That doesn't really bother me. But the actual bet itself, like, is it like 3 bets on 3 competitions?
Oh, yeah.
Or is it like a combination?
We'll take 24 picks, and whoever gets the most top 8s.
I mean, they're already in top 8 on ELeague, but
yeah.
So we'll have to figure it out when the time comes. Anyway, it has been fun chatting about this stuff. Not that we came to any conclusions. It's just chat. It's just chat, and that's why I want to hear from people in the comments section and their perspective on a lot of these things. And yeah, thank you, John, for always being there. Can't wait.
Thanks, Mark.
Can't wait to go 4-0. Looking forward to BAM this weekend. Can you imagine? Can you imagine 4-0? You should. If we go 4-0, then Jesus Christ, that's a lot of. We got to make a lot more shows for you to come back. Anyway,
I have no words. About that. I'm just gonna let my picks, my actions do the talking, and it will soon be 3-1.
Yeah, maybe, might be. It might be. Maybe it's possible. It's possible. Don't worry. Don't lose hope. Don't lose hope. That's what I'm saying. Keep your chin up. Keep your chin up. Stay positive. Stay positive. Anyway, I think we should say goodbye to these guys, and until next week, I guess. So I'm going to do this waving thing. This is what I do.
I'm going to do the salute.
Salute. Yeah, I can do the salute too. All right. Peace out, guys. Yeah. We are done.